What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another session of Coffee and Martial Arts. Salud, salud, salud. Cheers. Yes, sir. Hold on. Good coffee today and good show. Yes, sir. We have a good podcast today ready for you with a nice subject and a good friend of mine, Maestro Sami Ibrahim, who's been our collaborator for quite some time now. And he's going to be talking about or sharing insights about Silat, okay? And the connection with other martial arts and stuff. So if you're not a Silat practitioner, don't go away. We're going to talk. Don't worry. We'll talk and you can ask questions about it and how it relates to what you're doing, okay? And we'll try to answer it. But before we go there, let me just say that we are going live through our Facebook page, Master Frank Soto Kinetic Dragon. Please like and subscribe. That really helps us a lot so we can get this algorithm going and we get more views and more people and we generate a bigger impact and positive impact within the martial arts community. Okay, that's what this is about. This is a service for you guys, martial artists and martial arts enthusiasts. Okay. Also, we are going live through the Internacional with a C Hall of Fame of Argentina Facebook page. Okay, this is a nice group of martial artists that have their web page and they also have a magazine, okay, written and digital, that doing their thing down south and for the rest of the world. Okay, led by Master Juan Martín Álvarez. Saludos al Master Juan Martín y a todo el grupo, all the group. Thank you so much. We're also going live through our YouTube channel, the Kinetic Dragon channel. Yes, sir. Please like and subscribe and click on the little bell so you get notified every time we go live. Okay. So today we have a good show in our hands. Okay. We're just waiting for our good friend, collaborator, Sami Ibrahim to be here. Okay. So today we're going to talk about Silat insights. Okay. So Sami's been a Silat practitioner for quite some time, and he's going to share with us some points of views, okay? But before we bring him in, I think he's ready. Let's bring some of the comments. Sifu Ernesto Colbrenner, salud maestros from Casa de la Cultura China, Santa Fe, Argentina. Hug from the heart. Saludos maestro, gracias Sifu. Okay, so let me bring in the man of the hour, Silat practitioner, okay, and a good friend of mine who is also a Kempo instructor and has done many other different arts, mostly on the practical application or real application of the art. So he's been collaborating with us for quite some time now. So let's bring in Maestro Sami Ibrahim. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Looking good. I like that. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing better. It's
Okay.
a rough last month with this COVID situation, but my health is getting back to normal.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, my family was there as well. Past couple of weeks, got the freaking thing, but we're doing fine. So yes, good. I understand basically. So guys out there, be careful. Take care of your health and keep your guard up. So, what do you have prepared for us, my friend, for this day?
Well, this is the first time I'm going to publicly speak about Silat, and I debated quite a bit with myself as to how I was going to approach this. Am I going to do a bunch of historical, my usual historical rant? And then I thought, you know what, that's probably going to be boring. And also, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense to people that I can't do it justice in a 50-minute block to really try to explain everything. That's what I want to do, but we don't have that. So I'm going to try my best to give a very general description of something that is very difficult to pin down. Because if you say Silat or Panjak Silat is a certain thing, it inevitably does not apply to the thousands of different types of Silat out there. You could only apply it to a certain number of them. And so I hate to generalize, but that's the situation I'm in. So bear with me if I say something about Silat that doesn't apply to your type of Silat. I understand. I know we have different styles out there. Also, I understand there's different languages out there, right? Because Silat is not just it doesn't just come in the form of Bahasa Indonesia. It doesn't come in Javanese. It doesn't come in, the language of whether it's Malaysian, Silat, or something. So I'm going to try not to be too heavy in the terminology, just a little, but bear with me if that's not what you call it, okay? So,
and also, if I may add, if somebody wants to make a comment or just share some information or some insights, they can do so. And we'll put the comment out here so everybody can learn and benefit from what you have to share, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's begin. All right. I thought about a question and answer format, but let me start with a basic introduction. Go ahead.
And can you add in that basic introduction the meaning of the outfit that you're carrying? The
Absolutely.
uniform?
I will talk about that.
Thank you.
So, once upon a time, like any good story, once upon a time, a long time ago, approximately 1 million years ago, Indonesia and the surrounding islands, which there's over 800, began to be inhabited. Okay. And right around, so we're talking 1 million years ago. And people brought with them the beliefs that they had at that time. Okay. Most martial historians and historians in general refer to the earliest religions of that area as animism, the practice of like animal worship. But that's very generic and not 100% accurate. Okay. But so this is how I would like people to look at it. This is my opinion on it, right? So think of it like this. Human beings go to the jungles, right? They go to these island jungles and they got to survive. They got to find a way to survive. And the things that they develop, the medicines, the ritualistic aspects, the weapons, and the methods of violence are all become this thing that today we call Silat, right? But it evolved, right? Or rather, as different cultures came into the area, they brought their belief system and then they reinterpreted what was already there. Okay. So from animism, right, which is the earliest sources that we can find, is this sort of nature worship thing, which I really wanted to get more detail into it. I will touch on a few things, but try to remember that this is a different culture. And because it's a different culture, some of this stuff is going to sound mystical and magical because, frankly, it is. And so you'll just have to suck it up. I'm going to speak from the perspective of someone that's involved in the art rather than some I'm not a Western scientist or Western historian looking at it from the outside, but I'm going to talk about it from the inside. All right. So from animism, from the animalistic nature worship sort of belief system, there came Hinduism. Okay. Now, right around that time, you also have a migration of the Taiwanese people that are slowly sort of replacing the original inhabitants. And the Taiwanese people brought their reverence for the ancestors with them. Okay. So now you have, it's different from ancestor worship. Okay. It's not exactly ancestor worship, but let's just call it ancestor reverence. A lot of respect for honoring the old ways and honoring what our ancestors were striving to do. Right. And that's combining with this sort of method of harmonizing with nature and utilizing nature to your advantage. And you have to have that because you have to survive in it, right? So if if you're diametrically opposed to nature and the jungle, you're not going to survive in the jungle, right? So you really got to kind of adapt. Okay. Then after Hinduism, almost immediately after Hinduism came Buddhism, right? So now you have animism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and this ancestor thing all coming together, right? And affecting the interpretation of these martial arts. And finally, you have several empires that are Hindu empires, and then finally you have the migration of Muslim traders coming to trade with the people in Indonesia and bringing Islam into it. Okay, and then you start to see a transformation once again of a lot of the elements within Silat being reinterpreted in an Islamic way. Okay. And that's pretty much where we're at. And I'll get into a little bit about the Dutch and Indo situation and the occupation and the Indonesians fight to freedom and all those sort of things. I might touch on that. But what you should understand or what you should take away is that there's a lot of layers of culture and a lot of layers of belief.
Okay. I got a question.
Go ahead.
First, I would like to ask, what does the word Silat means? And the other question would be, so you're saying it's attached to the first humans that populated that area? It all began all the way, I don't know.
Roughly 1 million years ago. So roughly 1 million years ago is roughly, I think, the dated Java man skeleton, if off the top of my head.
Okay, so this is before the Homo sapiens then?
No, you could make it. You could make
for 250 to 300,000 years.
Okay, I thought about talking about that migration from Africa all the way to Indonesia. I gave that some thought. I'm gonna leave that alone. I don't know. They seem human to me, right? The earliest skeletons that have been dated that far back look human to me. Okay.
Oh,
I'll just leave it at that. Right now.
Interesting.
Now they used weapons, obviously, to survive in the jungles. Okay. But it wasn't solely about weapons. It was also about medicine. It was also about healing, right? And that's very important to understand because, in my opinion, based on my research at the level that I'm at, I believe that this martial art really started with what we might call in the West as shamanism, right? So the early shamans were really the gatekeepers of this art.
That makes sense.
And the shamans had a role in society, and that role was as healers. Now,
and the spiritual guides and and advisors and stuff like that, right? So
It's
they
just-
were like the wise men, right, or women.
yes. Well, see, the thing is, so when you heal somebody back then, and those of us who still practice those type of healing methods, it wasn't solely that you healed just the physical body. You had to heal the spiritual body too. So you were treating the mind, body, and spirit connection at the same time. For example, so you might be applying a medicine, but you might be massaging it in, and that might be the physical, but you're also going to recite a prayer, or you're going to, recite a magical chant along with that. And there's other elements involved. Now,
okay, hold on.
Silat. Let's go back to the word Silat.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
All right. So there is a debate among historians as to where that word came from. What we should understand is that I'm using Silat as a very generic word. Okay. Not everybody there calls it Silat. right? Depends on what style you do. Now, every specific style, or rather every specific system of generic silat has its own name. So you might have Chimande, right? You may have something called Pukulan that was popular with the Dutch Indos, right? You may have Chikalong, Shah Bendar. You have all these different types of silat. It's not, Harimau, right? Harimau Maninkabau, right? Like there's all these different types of silat. You can't just assume that everyone calls it silat. Like if you go over to one island, they might call it pencha. They don't even use silat. And then you go over here and they just call it silat. And then up here they call it silak, right? And some people say, okay, silat comes from the word lightning, right? It derives from the Indo word or the Javanese word for lightning, right? So does it? Is silat from that word, or is silat having more to do with some of the Islamic culture because it's so closely related to the word salat, which means to pray, right? There's a debate about it. If you go historically speaking, silat existed. The term silat existed before the beginnings of the Islamic migration into those islands, right? So I think if you were going to hazard a guess, if I was a betting man, I would say it was derived from the word lightning, which carries the principle of strike like lightning. Okay, so salik, right? So it's derived from that. Now, if you're talking to like a Sufi Muslim mystic, he might tell you that silat is an acronym, right? And that it stands for certain Sufi religious higher order principles and things of that nature. Okay. I don't want to get too deep into it because we could literally spend 3-4 hours just talking about and debating the different people's perspectives on what the origin of that word is. But around 1948, the community came together. An organization was formed called IPSI that combined the Pensha word and the Silat word to unify more schools under one umbrella. And so they started calling it Panchak Silat, right? Just so they could have a bunch of schools under their umbrella, right? But a lot of people were opposed to all coming under one umbrella. So not everybody registered their style. So to give you an idea, in Malaysia today, there are roughly 1,000 Silat styles, right? That's Malaysia, right? In Indonesia, right, there's at least 1,000, but we might be looking at numbers far greater than that. Now, some experts that I trust have said that most Silat, you could trace it back to 3 primary Silat styles, right? And they named the areas where, so the Silat that came from 3 general areas comprises 70% of all the Silat that's out there. And then people add the 30% of their own local Silat with it, right? So for example, the Silat that I do is called Chimande, right? So the Chimande style comes from Chimande village, all right? That Silat is one of the oldest types of Silat. So many arts derived from Chimande. They were the founders made a slight modification to it. So for example, the very popular in the West version of Silat called Sarah, which is often spelled with a silent K, so it looks like Sarak, right? Salat Sarak, but it's Salat Sarah, is actually that founder was a student of Chimande, right? And then he basically was like, okay, so Chimande is kind of defensive, and he kind of put the emphasis on offensive. So Sirah is a more offensive version of Chimande, right? There's a guy, Haji Ibrahim, who has the same last name as me, so I always remember. He's the founder of Chikalong, right? And he approached it differently, right? This is a demonstration. He's one of the gurus demonstrating Silat Chimande at a mosque. If you play the volume for a second, I don't know if they're going to play the gamelan music in this one. So you'll hear 3 instruments that are very popular in gamelan music, and that is the drum, a double-ended drum, a gong, and a recorder, which is usually called a trumpet, but it's not an American-style trumpet. It looks like an Indian recorder. So here he's doing what, this kambungan, this flower dance, right? And so a lot of these movements are actually baiting movement. It looks like he's wide open because he's inviting someone to attack, right? But when you're actually getting into Chimande proper, everything is closed, everything is nice and tight. So the opening movements are just bait. They're just a decoy, right?
And
then the person
I
comes
gotta
in and
add
brings
something, if I may, that I really like about Silat is it looks really artistic, like you can see the art form in it. I know it's lethal and all that, but it looks really nice to the eye, even to the non knowledgeable or the beginners or the layman's eye. I mean, it's exotic and it looks beautiful, I should say, in a good way.
Thank you. Yes, it is to me a very beautiful art, and some people will say that Salah can be divided into 4 parts, and one of those parts is the artistic part, right? People use I don't, so they'll use this is a treshula or a training tekbih, and people will say that it usually looks like a sai. It usually doesn't look like this, but my sais are upstairs, so bear with me. Anyway, they'll say that this as a representation of the art, and they'll say that so the 3 points are like the art side, the self-defense side, and the weapon side, and then they'll say the handle is the spiritual side. So they'll say that this represents the 4 aspects of Silat, right? So that's a common belief among certain gurus, right?
Nice.
I dig it, but so in case anybody was confused, right? I'm a Muslim, right? And so this is a very common hat that we wear in Islam, right? It's just what we might wear to go to the mosque to pray. Okay. And another popular weapon in Silat is the sarong, right? And a sarong was usually worn. Well, actually, the trend actually started in India, but it's worn, but it's loved by Muslims, right? Muslim men will wear it around their legs because it's easier to do purification that way, right? It's easy to lift up your skirt and wash yourself, right? So, so the sarong, in Indonesian culture, it can be worn the way I'm wearing it now, where you can put things in it like you would a bag, right? So you go to the market and you put your oranges and your whatnot, right? And you just put it right in your sarong, and there it is, easy to carry, right? But if you have to defend yourself, it's quickly deployable to defend the block, right? And to wrap and to strangle, to throw. And there's ways to use it to strike so hard that you can shatter stones, right? A cloth, you can strike with a cloth so hard you shatter stones. And when I first heard that, I didn't believe it. I was like, get out of here. How are you going to use something so lightweight to break a stone? And then I met some masters and I got whacked in the face with one of these and it felt like a brick. So when you know the technique and you know how to fold it, it's quite impressive. And that's the beautiful thing about Silat. Like, so often people that I think these guys like to train with. So the guy you had earlier that you showed a picture of,
right.
I believe his name is Mal Morni. He comes from Dar es Salaam, Brunei. So there's there's the Brunei Silat is there, right? So you got Indonesia, which is like your 800 outer islands, basically. Then you have Malaysia, right? The 2 parts of Malaysia, which also have Silat. You also have it in the southern Thailand. You have some in the Philippines, right? Especially in the Mindanao area. And you have it in Brunei. You have it in Bali, right? So many of this area has the Silat influence. Now, again, Silat generic because they all refer to it in their own respective terms, right? It's just that we in the West most commonly call it Silat or Pencak Silat. In Malaysia, you might hear them say like Silat or Silat Gayong, right? And Gayong is another popular word for Silat, like that I could tell already is Gayong, right? And it's a very interesting style. It's I studied with some interesting people that really left a very good impression of Silat Gayong. And in fact, the Keris techniques that I studied, that's a Keris tech. Well, let's talk about the Keris since we already jumped there. I was going to save that to the end, but
okay, hold on a second. Let me just bring some of the people saying hello, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Okay, we have some comments. Let's see. Here we go. Laoshi Feliciano Manuel, salute to all the maestros and professors of Kung Fu. He's sending hello from Angola, Africa. Wow, Nice. Thank you, sir. Saludos.
There's a
Gracias.
connection between Angola, Africa, well, in Africa in general, and the trade that they were doing with Minangkabau, which is why Harimau Silat resembles capoeira, or the Angola capoeira Angola.
Nice.
Right? There's a connection between the two because they traded together for a very long time.
Nice. Cool. International Hall of Fame. Salud, maestros from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Saying hello, Horacio Machado Kiyoshi, Director of World Budo Shitoryu Hachi or Kai Organization. Good year to all of you. Buen año. Gracias, Sensei. Saludos, Kiyoshi. Carlos Villarroel. Buena tarde. Buena tarde, Big Master. How you doing? Saludos to your maestro, the guest teacher, Sami Ibrahim. Buen Café Marcial from Brazil, Manaus. Salud. Thank you. Okay. Maestro Young Ward from Ireland saying, really interesting. Thank you, Maestro. Salud to you, sir. Manuel Ponce Mendoza, salud from Mexico. Professor Manuel Ponce, representative of International Wing Chun Organization of Michoacán. Saludos y un abrazo. Big hug. Gracias. Saludos, maestro. Saludos, Ifu. Mega Man Exhibo. Greetings from Ecuador. Thank you. Wow. Very international today. Okay. Okay. So that's it. I just wanted to say hello to all the people. Yes, sir.
Here is your very general description of or introduction to the Keris. The reason I think it's a good idea to go ahead and start here is because through this, I can give you an idea or a glimpse into the evolution of the culture itself and the evolution of the art. Okay, so don't mind my ritualism. All right, so I want you to take a close look at the pattern on this Keris.
Nice.
Okay. This pattern is known as, the pattern on a Keris is known as a pamor. Okay. The pamor has a meaning. Okay. Has a meaning. This one is known as Keris Adig, right? Keris Adig carries the meaning of it is good against black magic and it is good against natural disasters. Okay. So that might be like, well, what is he talking about? Right. Nice. Yes, of course, it's good at, stabbing my enemies. Yes, of course. But it also carries, for lack of a better word, a magical ability. Okay. The very respected people that make Kerises are called impus. Okay. The impu, when he makes a Keris, depending on what kind of Keris he's going to make, and who he's making it for, and the year of their birth, and the season, and the lunar month, and the calendar, and all this stuff. But anyway, he makes each one very uniquely, right? And when he does, go ahead.
Was that one done for you?
No, it was not. And I'll explain how that works, right?
Okay.
All right. First of all, my pocketbooks aren't that deep. But second of all, it is very hard these days to even find an input. And if you can find one, which I know a few, it's hard to get on their calendar. Right. Now, there is a way to inherit Kerises, and there's a way to inherit them, and there's a way to be gifted them. Okay. Nice. You can also buy them. And if you buy them, you just, buyer beware, because if you don't know much about Kerises, somebody could sell you a fake quite easily.
Right.
And there's a lot of information that people don't quite know. And anyway, I'm going to get into it all right now. So bear with me. I'm going to go a little fast because it's a lot of information to cover in a very short time. So here we go. All right. Traditionally, the impu would fast and he would recite certain prayers or certain magical spells, depending on his belief system, while he made it. So it started to carry the belief that a spirit, a jinn, or it goes by many different names, would be placed inside of the Keris.
Okay.
Okay. This was in the days prior to Islam.
Okay. We could say this is similar to what the Japanese do with their katanas, right?
It is very similar. It is very similar. It's different, but it's similar because the katana and the wakizashi were status symbol weapons. So if you carry 2 swords, you were a member of the Bushi class. You were a warrior. When you carry a Keris, you're a man, right? So in the Indonesian culture, and okay, let me backtrack even further. Let's go way back in history.
Okay, we have somebody saying hello to you. Maestro, Damon Abbott, Sami and Frank Soto. Hello. Sami has been incredibly supportive of me in my training, and I greatly appreciate it.
It is easy to be supportive of people who are good. It's hard to be supportive of the bad ones. That's where the real challenge lies. But your tempo is excellent. I love the way you move, so it's easy for me to be supportive.
Cool. Thank you. Salud, Maestro Damian. Big hug, my friend. Okay, so there's a way to open it, and you have to be very respectful of the weapon. So that, like I said, there are similarities to how Japanese people handle their katanas. And I'm mentioning this because, well, katana is one of the most popular weapons out there, right?
Right. Now,
if not the most, probably of ancient times, or all times, I should say.
I'm gonna throw some legends at you guys. Bear with me. Okay. Cool. So it was said long ago, in a culture where everyone was carrying a keris, in a culture where everyone's carrying a dagger, that you could kill somebody and go into hiding for 3 days. And if they did not find you in 3 days, it meant that it was a good kill and you don't get in trouble for it. Okay. So in that society, you get an argument with somebody and you off them with your weapon and you go into hiding for 3 days. No problem. You didn't get caught. Nobody caught you in those 3 days. All is forgiven. Right. So wow. This was a culture from ancient times that this weapon was always their companion. Okay. So it's a bladed culture, right? And I mean, who would go into the jungle without a blade, right? Nobody goes into the jungle.
Why the shape?
Okay. So there's 2 types of kerises, right? One, unfortunately, all of mine are the linear. I should have brought I have one upstairs that's straight, but all of mine, I like the wavy ones, all right? But some come straight, right? And I think the older models were straight, right? And then eventually when they learned metallurgy to a higher level, they started making the waves, okay? Which I'll talk about the waves and the meaning of the waves soon. Those of you who know Silat, don't judge me harshly for when I'm at the show. Those of you who recognize that pamor know that it is a pamor, a pattern that is often associated with, well, darkness, and people don't like to carry these. Okay. Some people believe that these are cursed and that it will bring great harm to the person who has it. All right. Okay. This is called buntilmiyet, and it's really the name that got everybody screwed up, right? Because it means like death shroud or a death wrapping. Okay. So the Javanese and the Sundanese, they generally shy away from it. But the people in Bali, the Lombok area, this is one of the most highly prized pamors. Okay. And okay, so on that note, I want to clarify something, right? No impu makes a keris like to curse somebody or to hurt somebody. Okay. You don't make it for it to be bad, right? Right. It's just that some of them, it's believed that they are picky about who their owner is. Okay. Right. So if you're not a good match for it, so typically when you get one, so some traditions, you put it under your pillow and you sleep. And if you have a nightmare, you're not compatible with it. If you don't, then it's at least accepted you. And there's things where you have to learn its true name and stuff like that. But yes, go on.
So it is believed that the weapon has to kind of choose the owner or be compatible, or
they say the same thing about the art of Silat, that you don't choose Silat, that Silat chooses you, and the same way that you don't choose a keris, the keris chooses you. And there's certain ceremonial things. Like I'll talk about when I first got my first keris. I will show you my first keris.
Okay, so how did you start Silat? Practicing Silat?
Oh, you want me to tell you that story?
Why not? I mean, when did it happen? When did you start training Silat? How long ago?
All right. I've never really shared the story with anybody, so I'm just going to touch
everybody's
on it.
watching now. Come on, it's a good time.
All right. So look, my grandfather, okay, his last name is Yassine from my mom's side. Okay. He was a soldier. Okay. He was a bodyguard to a king.
Okay.
And he had been trained in some military methods. And as a kid, he shared, because I asked him, he shared a few things with me in private. Right. And that got me curious.
Of course.
Okay. But you're a kid, and my mind was focused on a million other martial arts at the time. So I wasn't, it's always the thing, like when you're like the thing your family does, right? Not all of my family, but if a family member offers you something, oftentimes you like neglect it. You want that other thing, right? The grass is greener on the other side.
Sure.
Okay? So at that time, I wasn't thinking in those terms, right? At the time, I think I was studying, let's see. At the time that he showed me that, I was studying Shotokan Karate, Okinawan Kabuto, a little bit of Wing Chun. I was learning Chin Na from like a Northern Shaolin guy. And I was practicing 7-Star Mantis, right? So I had my hands full. And while I was like interested in what he was showing me, I was like, I didn't really understand. Like, I didn't understand what Silat was, right? So cool, but yeah, right? I didn't know. Then when I started Kempo and I was learning Kempo, I had a friend of mine who was from Syria take me to go meet a guru where I was in Ohio. And I told you that story before. It was the guy that was secretive and was about to teach me a fake martial art until I spoke.
And when was this?
To be honest with you, don't remember.
5-10 years ago.
Sometime between 1990 and maybe like 96.
Oh, okay, though. So it was almost 30 years ago, huh? Okay, hold on a second. We have another people saying hello. Jonathan Rojas, paying attention. A giant hug. Raptors team, saludos, saludos, maestro. Gracias. Milton Sandrea, salud from Venezuela. Maestro Milton Sandrea, General Secretary of OMAM. Very good interview. He says, my respects to you, honorable masters. Silat is an art with many secrets and very old that are not yet fully shown. Gracias, master. Thank you, sir.
Gracias. I'm not a master, but thank you. Gracias. Now, anyway, so I had my little introduction there. I wasn't a good one. I left upset because I didn't like all the secrecy, right?
There you go. I'm talking about secrets, huh?
Right? So I was like, secret. Because I was immature. I was like, everyone should just give, you feel entitled. Like everybody should just give you the deadly stuff, right?
I understand. Yes. Right? Yes.
And then, so it wasn't until years later. Well, actually, a couple of years after that, I was teaching I was sharing a school with a Shorin-ryu karate instructor.
Okay.
And
one question. Would it be fair to say, now that you have mentioned it, that you have trained so many different martial arts, would it be fair to say that all of them have various types of secrets?
I can't speak for all of them because not all of them gave me their goods. But I would, if I was a betting man, I would say most of the older ones do. I don't know if the newer ones do, because a lot of times the newer ones are made out of spite for all the secrets that the old ones have, right?
Right.
So people are like, oh, I have to be ethical and moral, or you're not going to teach me. Well, I'll just go create my own thing after like a month of doing what you do. So it becomes one of those like, okay, come up with your own secrets. All right. So anyway, I was sparring with one of his students. That guy that I met, his student used to come to our school on sparring nights, and I would spar with him. And I can tell now, knowing what I know now, I know he was trying to use what I call the porcupine defense, or the thorn defense, call it like the rose with the thorns, which is where when somebody attacks, you try to use your elbows and knees to impale the moves that they throw at you. So I knew he was like, now I know that that's what he was trying to do against me. But at the time, I was like close to my Kempo prime, and I was very accurate and very fast, and I could hit small targets. So like I could just get around his defenses pretty easily, and I didn't feel like it was a big deal, right? I was like, okay, Silat, cool, whatever. It's like respectable, but it wasn't something that I felt like I had to invest time in, right? Had he kicked my butt, I probably would have felt differently, right? And then, so then I went on with my life. It wasn't until I started getting into the military, right? And when I started working with certain guys, see, then I get into name dropping units and stuff like that, and I sound like Frank Dukes. I worked with a lot of special units, right? And so many of them were Silat people, right? So they spoke so highly of Silat, and they were like, "Yeah, Silat, Silat, Silat." So I'm like, "All right, there's got to be more to this thing, right?" And I had a good buddy of mine who did kick my butt, and he was a practitioner of like Sambo, Capoeira, and a couple other arts, catch wrestling, right? And so this was the first time that I fought somebody who could change levels, right? Could drop low and fight really well low. Okay. And it really screwed me up, right? I didn't know that I was like, up until that point, I was like, oh, like fighting is fighting, right? So all of a sudden you have this guy who's dropping below my belt line, wants to fight me while I'm still standing. And it was bizarre, right? And what was crazy was how hard he could hit from down there, right? So then it made me go, okay, well, I got to close the distance on this guy and grapple him. It's the only thing. And that's when I found out he's a Sambo and catch wrestling expert, and I've just been set up. All right. So after untying myself from being a pretzel, I started like taking that more seriously. Like, I got to figure out what to do about fighting people that can do that. And he's like, why? Who's going to fight you like that in the world? You know, I was like, still, I don't like having such a big hole in my my understanding.
Right.
So he said, okay, give me a phone number. And he said, go talk to this Silat guy. Right. I was at Fort Campbell at the time. He was like, go talk to that's in Tennessee. So I was like, all right, I probably will. Right. But I didn't. I never called that number. Went about my day, fought a few wars and all that. And then I go to Washington. And at this point, I've accumulated so many injuries, right, that I'm afraid that since Kempo is built around solid bases, that my base is going to collapse structurally, like my leg's going to give out. I had no more cartilage between some of my joints. So, and then those joints had drilled holes in the bones below them because there's nothing in between. Right. So it was a mess. And I was really afraid that I was going to have to fight from the ground. I had been trained and I got certified in like what I call BJJ Light, which is the Army Combative System. And I'd taken some lessons at a Machado Jiu-Jitsu school and stuff. So I could ground grapple the way BJJ people do it, but I hated it. So I was like, all right, I want something different, something that's more geared towards like a no holds barred weapons type of situation. Right. And that's when I started exploring a little bit of Harimau, just researching it. And I was like, all right, I got to find a Silat instructor. And sure enough, I found a Silat instructor out there in Washington. And he was this guru. His name is Kevin. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tell the embarrassing story of how I got my butt kicked by this guy. Okay. So Guru Kevin is short. Right? He's a short guy. Okay. He's not exactly intimidating, right? If you guys see if those of you who know me know, I often roll around in sunglasses and a leather jacket and I look kind of imposing, right? And then I walk into this place and here's this little short guy, kind of reminded me of Yoda. And I thought, okay, cool. And he's going over what Silat is. He's giving me my little introduction. And funniest thing happened. So somehow we get engaged in some, little crossing of hands. And the next thing I know, I am face down and my arms and legs, both of my arms, both of my legs are being locked. Right. And I admit that I was not, it wasn't like an all out fight to the death sort of mentality. I really was more curious as to what he was doing. But he was locking me pretty good. And I said, I think I asked him, what lock is that? And then I hear the guy's voice from across the room. And I go, well, if you're over there, who the hell's on my back? This man had tied me up with my shirt. This guy just hog-tied me with my shirt in the span of time it takes us to do a sweep. That is when I was like, okay, I got to learn this. Like, that's ridiculous, right? Embarrassing and ridiculous. Yes, go ahead.
Sensei Emmett saying good evening, and then he says Silat Yoda. Good evening, sir. Thank you, Sensei. Nice comment. Okay.
So, I learned a lot from him. Now, this is when I kind of also got a little understanding of there is some politics in Silat, right? Like there is in every martial art.
Of
And I
course.
didn't know that. I always thought that politics were just something that was, mostly in Kempo. you know, but as it turns out, every martial art has politics.
Of
They
course.
all do,
It's a human
right?
thing.
And one thing about this style, you got to kind of understand a little bit about the history of Indonesia, is at the time there was a point in Indonesian history where the Dutch East Indies invaded and occupied Indonesia. And some of those Dutch married Indonesian women and had mixed children called Indos. Okay. And those, during the time that the Dutch were in control, a lot of the Indos and the Dutch lived very luxurious lives in Indonesia, while the Indonesian people themselves, under occupation, lived very miserably. And when then World War II happens, the Japanese invade. At first, the Japanese are viewed as liberators because they're actually getting rid of the Dutch. But then it turns out the Japanese soldiers aren't much better. So coming to realize this, the Japanese are defeated in World War II. And as a result of that defeat, the Indo people are basically put in camps. They're not like that's it. Their lives are now in danger, right? Because these are basically like we're gonna kill the traitors is the mindset of the people that just got their freedom, right? We're gonna kill the plantation owners, if you understand my drift, right?
Right.
So they're coming after the guys that were oppressing them. So those guys fled back to the Netherlands, right? And that is why you have an art that is very popular out there called pukulan. Okay, pukulan, sometimes called pukulan silat. Okay, pukulan means to strike. Okay, so the pukulan methods are, you could describe them as dirty boxing, and they are the mixed race people's answer to the silat that the other side was using.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So pukulan makes its way to the Netherlands and eventually to the United States, right? So when the Twas and all the popular names that came, so like if you talk about how it got to America, you have to mention Mande Muda, right? And the very famous master Herman Sawanda, right? And Mande Muda consists of 25 different Indonesian Silat styles. Okay, so you could actually argue more than 25, right? But at the time of its popularity, it was roughly 25 styles of Silat put into one art, Mande Muda. Okay, it is a very, very good art. Now, some guys will go, that's the Jeet Kune Do of Silat, right? But it's not. It's really good. If you get a chance to learn some Mande Muda, you absolutely should do it. But just pick your teacher carefully. All right. Then you have, like I said, the Twas, and they brought Sirah, right? But a lot of, again, even though that's Indonesian and it's a variation of Chimande and it's more aggressive, they bring their 18 jurus, right? The very popular 18 jurus of Sirah. And that's where you get like Bukti Negara and a lot of stuff that Danny Inosanto utilized to make the Majapahit, what is it? The name of his Silat style. It's Majapahit Mafalindo Silat, right? So that's another thing, right? So these guys are now taking what's coming into the U.S. and they're kind of putting it under one roof, and they're teaching it as under different names, right? So that is the famous Herman Sawanda. His brother Bam Bam is still alive. We lost him too early. Because what an amazing master, what an amazingly skilled and knowledgeable encyclopedia of Silat knowledge this man was. Okay, that's his brother. His brother is still alive. His daughter is still involved. Bam Bam's daughter is still involved in Silat. In fact, this is from his daughter. This is called a kujang. Okay.
Nice.
Right? So this is another one of those weapons where you see a type of pamor. Okay.
Okay.
And these come in many forms. If you'll notice, there are 5 dots on it.
Okay.
Those when a kujang has 5 dots, it is symbolic of the 5 pillars of Islam.
Nice.
The older ones have 3 because it was the old animism religion was based on sort of kind of 3 deities.
Very interesting.
So anyway, and they come in different shapes and stuff, and they usually have the tiger handle.
Hold on a second. We're running out of time, and we have a couple of questions and a couple of people
Oh
saying
my
hello.
goodness, we're already out. I feel like I'm still doing the intro to my intro.
We only have 10 minutes left. Juan Martín Álvarez, salud maestro, saludos maestro Juan Martín, gracias, thank you sir. Luis González, saludos, and excellent transmission, thank you maestro, gracias Luis González, saludos. Okay, sharing some of the weapons here. Okay, Sensei Axel Cárdenas Lizama said, hi Frank, hi Sammy. Sammy, what is your opinion of the Abir Keshet and the Abir Yud? Happy New Year. Cool. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what that is.
Dice que no sabe qué es. No está seguro de a qué te refieres. Dice, hola Sammy, with respect to the movie The Raid.
Oh, what about it?
What do you think of Penkat Silat? Do you believe was well represented in that action film?
Yes. Okay. So, Iko, the star of the show, one of his good friends is a guy whose name is, I believe, Abdul Rahman, right? Or no, I'm sorry, Chechap Rahman, right? So Chechap Rahman is one of the gurus that taught my gurus, right? Not Guru Kevin, but I studied with other gurus in Tennessee, and their teacher was Chechap, right?
Okay.
And in fact, when I work on my Silat, I look at Chechap and try to copy him. He's my standard for my Silat.
Okay, hold on. Let me translate this. Axel, Sammy dice que Chechap.
Yeah, Chechap Rahman. He was the assassin who used the 2 karambits at the end of Raid 2.
Okay, Chechap Rahman, el asesino que usaba los 2 karambits al final de la película de Raid 2, dice que él es uno de los seniors de uno de los linajes donde trabaja Sammy y que él lo mira o lo ve como modelo. Así que sí que está muy bien representado el Silat ahí y que es gente que sabe. Okay.
Yeah. His school is called Penglapur. It's a mix of 5 styles of Silat. I think they did an excellent job representing it, even though they admitted that they made it a little more violent for Hollywood purposes. You know, it's not quite, it's savage, but it's not quite, you know, kill 50 people savage, but it's, you know, be realistic, but it's pretty, it was very well represented. There's a few other ones, like a few other movies that Iko made that have Silat in them. They're all excellent.
Ok, dice que lo representaron muy bien, aunque los mismos maestros admitieron que lo hicieron un poquito más salvaje por propósitos hollywoodenses, ¿no? O sea, por película, pero que lo hicieron muy bien y que mostraron muy bien, al igual que en otras películas. Hold on a second, let me see. María López, saludos. Gracias, María López, salud. Luis González is asking, do you have representatives of Silat in Argentina?
I personally don't, because I don't have a Silat association, but I'm sure you have Guru in Argentina.
Okay, Maestro Luis dice, Maestro Sami, que él no tiene representantes de Silat, que él nada más es practicante, pero que seguramente sí hay, que hay que buscarlos por allá. Si alguien sabe y quiere decir aquí, por favor, adelante. Another question, creo que, I think this already was answered, but let's bring it in. Sensei Emmett asks, what's the differences between Silat and Silat Penkat or Penkat Silat?
Okay, so the C in Indonesian, CH, it makes a CH sound, ch. So Pencak, right? Pencak. Not Pencak, right? Pencak. So Silat, no problem. Just so for everybody to know, because people don't know. I didn't know for even Chechup's name is spelled with like a C like that. So I thought it was like Ke, you know, and I like all this time. And then everyone's like, who's I'm like, who's Chechup? And they're like, Chechap Rahman, the guy from the Raid. And I was like, oh, same guy. I didn't even know that. All right. Okay. So anyway, the difference is usually if someone doesn't want to use Pencak, it's very likely that their Silat comes from Malaysia. That's not always the rule, but if you're talking about the very popular arts that are spread to different parts of the world, that's often the case. Some places like to use Silat. Some people say Pencak Silat. Some people just say Pencak. You know, so when you go to Indonesia and you're traveling to try to learn from a different guru, you might find one that doesn't use the term Silat at all. So you just... You know, like Harimau Maninkabau doesn't have the word Silat and doesn't have the word Pencak in it, right? But people will classify it under that umbrella of it is a type of Pencak Silat.
So you have many different art forms within Indonesia that goes under this generic names of silat and pencak, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, they'll all use the karambit. They're well, not all of them, but most of them will use the karambit. Most of them will use the keris. Most of them will use the kujang. Well, not all of actually. The kujang's a little more rare, but West Java is popular. This is my everyday carry, karambit, and it's not a traditional karambit by any means, right? It's a bastinelli, right? And this is one that I carry. Now people are like, why do you carry why don't I carry a traditional karambit? Because this one's smaller. The idea behind the karambit is it's supposed to be a concealed blade. It's supposed to be small, right? It's not about inflicting, big giant wounds like I'm slashing somebody with a golok or a machete. Right. No, the idea is you don't see it until it's too late, right? You just end up getting ripped apart. You don't see it. And now there's origin stories about these. It's debated.
It is said that the knife that cuts you is the one that you don't see, right?
Right. If you ever fight somebody and they pull out a weapon and they're sitting there posing with their weapon, you got to ask yourself, like, all right, hold on a second. Why get in my car and run you over? It's one of those things. People get pretty silly with the knife stuff.
Right.
Always keep it practical, keep it realistic, but respect the traditions. Those traditions.
Luis Gonzalez says, "Thank you for answering." Sensei Emmett says, "Sorry, I was late to the party. Thank you." No, thank you for being here, sir. Never late. No, thank you. Thank you for asking, by the way. Gervasio, training coach, personal trainer, says, "Congratulations for the show." Thank you, sir. Okay, we have another couple of questions, if that's okay. You want to say something before?
I don't. I was just showing people this one, and you can see that this is this type of handle has the Garuda from the Hindu culture.
Nice.
Right? But then when the Muslims came, you start seeing more of these kind of handles. Right? Because again, Muslims don't advocate the creation of like animals, right? Like in statue form or in drawings. Any living creature, they try not to represent that. For fear that somebody would one day use it as a thing to worship.
Let me bring a couple more comments. Well, a comment and a question first. Let's see. Look, Lucky Luke Mime says it's an excellent space, an excellent program, sharing different experiences and comments from masters from different places of the world. Silat is fascinating for me, and I like to learn some about. I'm a practitioner of capoeira, hapkido, and ninjutsu. Greetings from Neiva, Colombia. Muchas gracias por su espacio. Gracias. Saludos a everybody in Colombia. Saludos a toda la gente de Colombia. Okay, so we have one more comment from Milton Sandrea Sensei. Says, Master, what do you think about this story? A number of stories exist detailing the history of particular styles, which are often used as origin myths for Silat in general. One such tale is of a woman named Rama Sukana who witnessed the fight between a tiger and a large hawk. By using the animal movements, she was able to fend off a group of drunken men that attacked her.
Somebody edited your legend a little bit. It usually ends with her husband trying to beat her up for taking so long, and then she beats him up. So women in the culture have an elevated place in the Southeast Asia and in Indonesia, especially among the Javanese. So the women are revered. So that's why they would make their founder a woman versus a man, because the woman is given a more respected place in that culture. However, that particular legend changes. Sometimes it's a tiger versus a monkey, right? And then she emulates the movements of the monkey. Sometimes she emulates the movements of the tiger. Depends on whether your style emulates a tiger or the Garuda or whatever. The truth is, of course, that it's not an accurate legend of the origin. So it's just one legend that teaches you something, right? It teaches a man that he should be patient and not try to hit his wife, right? It teaches women that it empowers them and lets them know that they can use this. Like what I was going to say about the karambit earlier, I know we were pretty much out of time, but the karambit is believed by many masters to be a woman's weapon. I know originally when this karambit first came to America, people used to say, oh, it's a farmer's tool. But actually it was hidden in the hair of women and also in the brassieres of women, right? And so it was one of those weapons that if you had to defend your honor, you could pull out. And some people say it was originally like the tiger's claw. They would take like the tiger's claw and use it as a weapon, or they would take like not an eagle, but a rooster's claw and use that to cut and slash. And then that eventually evolved into this, the karambit. So
Right.
it's a woman's weapon. Now people are like, they don't want to hear that because, in the West, it's a very masculine culture and people want to associate it with, no, this is a weapon of war. This is a deadly man's weapon, right? For some reason, they just have an issue with giving credit to women when it comes to certain circles. But I don't care whether this was invented by a man or a woman. What I can tell you is this is brilliant because no matter how bloody your hand gets, you're not going to drop your weapon. Right.
Nice.
And you can open your hand and you can use it. What I'll tell you not to do, and I know some of my gurus are going to get a kick out of this, do not flip your karambit, or let me rephrase that, do not twirl it. There's a few applications for flipping it when you're castrating somebody or you're coming around to get a little more reach. But generally speaking, nothing like a good reverse grip, nothing like a nice strong grip reinforced. That's how you use it. You sit there and you start twirling it. Next thing you know, it stabs you right in the forearm, right? By spinning. It's a dumb thing to do. If you want to twirl stuff, go join the band. Get out of my art. All right. So
okay, my friend. So we are out of time. So if you want to, just close it up or say something.
I will do my best to give a 5-minute closing speech. 4 minutes. 4-minute closing speech. Okay.
Go. That's good.
So what I love about Pencak Silat is that I came from a journey of trying to find a martial art or the martial art that had the answer for ground fighting, for weapons, for stand-up, for fighting on wet ground, for fighting in water, fighting. I wanted something that had, that covered the full spectrum. That's Chechep Rahman right there. That's the guy from the Raid 2, the assassin. So Chechep's been going around giving demonstrations. We almost lost him. He got sick not too long ago, but luckily he's back on his feet, thank God. And I would have been quite upset about that one. So, again, the level of detail that the Panglapur people have, the level of detail that Chechep has, like you'll learn a juru from somebody and it's just like all they know is the movement, and then you get the same lesson from Chechep and the level of extra details, just things that you had no idea were involved, things that it does that you didn't understand. Like it's just, it's like echelons above the norm. But anyway, what I love about Silat is that it never deviates away from the understanding that weapons are involved in combat, right? You're never at a point where you're like, whether you're on the ground or whether you're standing up, you're always under the impression that you have weapons and they have weapons. And to me, that's a safe bet. That's the way to approach it. You don't want to approach martial arts under the understanding that I'm only preparing to deal with unarmed situations. And then if a weapon is introduced, then I have to change my tactics and my strategy because all of a sudden there's a weapon. If you just come at it from day one with this understanding of weapons, both how to use them and how they can be used against you, how they can be concealed, and so on, it adds a level of realism that you don't have. And on that note, because there's so many, there's going to have to be a part 2 to this. So sometimes you'll get training weapons, right? Like these, so you get something like this, and guys will spar with these, right? And anytime, whether it's a sword, a machete, whatever, the golok, right? If you're going to spar with it, right? If you're going to spar with these type of weapons, yes, they're great to spar with.
Okay.
Treat them realistically. And what I mean by that is oftentimes these are treated like they're fist loads. Like a guy will get a hit on someone's neck and the other guy's still swinging like crazy. Okay. I would say if you manage to get this across someone's throat, they're allowed to hit you one time under the assumption that they are so determined to kill you that they're going to do one last act before they die. Okay, fine. But if that person just keeps swinging and then you keep swinging, then it just becomes like you're beating each other with sticks. Right? It's not a realistic way to train weapons, right? It's stupid, frankly, right? So right. The people that you work weapons training, weapons sparring with have to respect the kill. They have to respect when you're getting hit in a place where, you're not just going to walk away from it. You're not just going to keep fighting, okay? Yes, you have to, as a practitioner, when you strike somebody with a weapon, absolutely, you have to withdraw in a safe way. You can't just sit there and like drop your guard completely. Like just like in Kenjutsu, when you cut the head off of somebody, you still point your blade at them and retreat before you put your blade away, right? The same idea right? When you're fighting with a Golok or you're fighting with another Keris, you have to be realistic about it, and you have to withdraw in a safe way, right? You don't drop your guard at any given point, right? But at the same time, respect the kill. Don't just turn it into a like you're sparring with brass knuckles, right? It's a blade. It has a different dynamic. I don't have to smash this through someone's skull, okay? That's the whole point of the blade is I don't need that much power, right? So it's kind of funny to me now. I watch people use certain weapons, and unfortunately, I didn't get into all the great jurus. But like I said, Chechup is a master of those 5 Penglapur arts. Plus, he knows a wealth more. Just very much an encyclopedia of Silat. If you ever get a chance to work with him, absolutely. If you can bring him into your school, it'll be worth its weight in gold. Like, he really is on a whole nother level when it comes to Silat, and his knowledge of the techniques and the art is amazing. He was, excuse me, he was teaching my gurus before he ever became famous, and then one day, all of a sudden, he's a movie star. In real life, he's an English teacher in Indonesia. He's an English teacher, and then he just happened to have, some of his friends from some of the Silat performances and stuff they would do is like Iko and the bad guy in the Raid 1, the short guy, Yaya, or Yayan, I think his name is, was also best friends with him. They lived city by city. So that's who called him up and said, oh, come be in the Raid too, So nice. He goes from being like one of my my teachers to being this famous movie star. So it's a lot harder to get him nowadays than it was before. He just starred he came in the Star Wars movie, and he also came in John Wick 3 as one of the assassins in John Wick 3. So, but very, very skilled guy. And, when he's doing these kind of performances, you might not see it, but when he's actually teaching and he's explaining to you what you're doing, just an incredible amount of detail, like a true understanding of the art at a level that I aspire to one day when I'm 100 years old, maybe reach. But we'll see. I got a long way to go.
Okay. So your 5 minutes are up.
It is. Yeah. Probably an hour ago, right?
Okay. So anything else you want to say before we go?
Thank you for having me as usual. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Next time I come on, maybe we'll do a little bit more. And please, everybody, if you see this, ask some questions. If you're not going to be able to watch it live, send me those questions on Facebook so I can answer them. All right. I need more questions so that I have excuses to do research, more research, because sometimes you just need a good question to get the juices flowing.
Sensei Emmett says women are deadly in combat. Their technical ability is on a different level in general. Haha.
Agreed. I agree.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate all of this, your time, and you're willing to share all this knowledge and history and understanding and insights. And you're always welcome. Of course, you're one of our great collaborators of the podcast. So it will be nice to have a second part of this. I think there's a lot more to talk about and a lot more to share.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you everybody that watched this, and have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week with more coffee and martial arts. Take care. Thank you, and bye-bye.